Guys, me again. I know that YouTube has taken away the video responses to other people's videos. So this video in part is a response to Ariel Bassett's Pride and Prejudice review from a couple months ago, and also just kind of my own little homage to Jane Austen, who I love and adore. If you've watched the intro video to my channel, you know that Pride and Prejudice is one of my sort of books that define my reading life, and this is my favorite copy of Pride and Prejudice right here. This is the annotated edition by David Shepard, and I used it for, I was fortunate enough to take a class my final semester of college in which Jane Austen was the theme. It was 19th century British literature, and my professor focused on Jane Austen's novels, so I read all of her novels for the most part. Pride and Prejudice has always been a favorite of mine. I grew up watching the A&E 6-part miniseries of Pride and Prejudice, and I watched the Keira Knightley movie of Pride and Prejudice when it came out in 2005. And I love both of those editions for different reasons. I love the miniseries because I feel like it really plays into all these different aspects of the novel. I feel like you get to know all of the characters a little bit better. But it's a miniseries. It's 6 one-hour episodes. It can do that. The movie I loved as a movie. I thought that Keira Knightley was really cute as Elizabeth Bennet, and Matthew Macfadyen I thought was very, very handsome as Mr. Darcy. My one critique of him as Mr. Darcy is that he seems a little bit too shallow, and not shallow in his feelings, but like they didn't. I mean, you look at Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, and you can tell that Darcy has passions, and you can tell that he's a very deep character. But with Matthew Macfadyen, I just don't think that they gave him enough time for us to really see Mr. Darcy for who he really is. And I get that. It's a movie, not a 6-part miniseries. So I like them both as they are. So, you know, I like the movie as a movie. I like the miniseries as a miniseries. I don't think one is worse than the other because they are basically two different formats. When it comes to when it comes to books that I love, in particular Jane Austen or the classics even, I really prefer miniseries as the format instead of film, because I feel like a miniseries can really delve into the different themes and the different characters. So that's my stance on the two different film versions that Ariel Bassett covered. When it comes to the story itself, Ariel Bassett, I love your videos. I think that you're an amazing booktuber, and I follow your channel, and I'm a huge fan, but she did not like Lizzie Bennet. That's okay, because, I mean, that's fine. I love, I love it when we can have intelligent discussion about why we don't like certain things about books or film or TV. So, I am actually a huge fan of Elizabeth Bennet, and I love her because for the same reason that she was admired by Ariel Bassett, which is that she is not a pushover. She speaks her mind. She knows right from wrong, and she's not going to be cowed by anyone. There's a great scene where Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who is Mr. Darcy's aunt, comes to visit Elizabeth because she heard a rumor that Elizabeth was engaged to Mr. Darcy, and at the time she wasn't. And if any other person than Elizabeth had been the one who had been visited by Lady Catherine and confronted with these rumors, like, everything would have fallen apart. If it had been Jane, I feel like Jane would have been a little bit cowed, but Elizabeth really stands up for herself, and she realizes that even though Lady Catherine is a very powerful person, it's none of her business if she's engaged to Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy's business is none of Lady Catherine's business. So I really love that about Elizabeth. One of the things that Ariel Bassett said about Elizabeth was that she's mean to her family, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that she just sees her family for what it is. Her sisters are a little bit ridiculous. Lydia, she knows, is out of control, and Kitty is well on her way to being out of control. Lydia has a very domineering personality. Kitty has practically no personality, really, within the context of the novel. So she really allows herself to be led by Lydia. And I think that Elizabeth is frustrated by her mother's indulgence to the two younger girls and her father's apathy, I guess, would be what I would want to say, her father's apathy. I love the relationship between Lizzie and her father. I think that it's one, well, they both kind of know that they're the sharpest tacks, and so I think that's why Mr. Bennet prefers Lizzie, even though he does love Jane. And Lizzie just she and Jane are so close, and she and her father are more allies than like a father-daughter relationship. I just love Elizabeth Bennet. I think that we all know someone like her who's a little bit quick to judge, who is fiercely loyal, and I got that out of Elizabeth. Like, even though Lydia runs off with Wickham, Elizabeth is still terribly upset by that, and not just because of what it's going to do to her reputation, to the family's reputation, but she's concerned for Lydia, even though Lydia doesn't deserve her concern at all. So I find that really touching about Elizabeth. I feel like if I could be one literary character, it would be Elizabeth Bennet, not just because of Mr. Darcy, although that's a very big thing, but also because of her fierceness, her loyalty, and I think that at the end of the novel she does realize how much of a mistake that she made, and she's willing to change. But I think that's what Mr. Darcy does for her, and I think that she also makes Darcy want to change. He didn't realize how much of a fool he had been until that big blow-up scene in the middle of the novel when he proposes to her. And she doesn't realize how much of an idiot she has been until Darcy writes her the letter after she refuses him. I think that Darcy really pulled the wool out from her eyes, made her realize that, maybe he phrased things wrongly when he proposed, but everything he said was true. And so I really like them as a couple because I think they make each other stronger. I just love Elizabeth Bennet. I do. And I might have a Jane Austen problem. I'm going to insert a video somewhere, I'm going to insert a picture somewhere here of my Jane Austen obsession. And I really hope that Ariel Bissett watches this video, and I hope I articulated myself correctly. And that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Bye.